Hey everybody, Jimmy's back. We'll let you decide if that's good or bad.
You are Locked On Bama, your daily podcast on the Alabama Crimson Tide. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey everybody, welcome back into Locked On Bama. Luke Robinson, that's me, Jimmy Stein, that's him. This episode is brought to you by LinkedIn. And you know what? I'm going to tell you about LinkedIn in just a little bit. Thank you so much for making this your first listen every single day. Jimmy, I want to get right into some pretty big visitors. And the first one is mighty big. Ty Haywood, a five-star offensive lineman, will be visiting Alabama May 31st through June 2nd. And you're like, okay, it's a long way off, Luke. What's the big deal? The big deal is he's a big deal. He's a five-star kid, offensive lineman from Denton, Texas, as I mentioned. And he seems to have a lot of interest in Alabama, the number 11 overall player in y'all's own 3 evaluation. So, yeah, it's a big deal.
Yeah, any five-star tackle. I mean, everybody makes a big thing of the scheme change, right? From the Nick Saban offense to the Kalen DeBoer offense, from the Saban defense to the Kane Womack defense. But the fact of the matter is football hasn't changed. And it all starts with big guys up front, five-star talent on the offensive line, five-star talent on the defensive line is still of the utmost importance. Here's a kid from Texas, which is an even more recruiting, territory, battleground than it was even before for Alabama, because now you've added Oklahoma to the league, Texas to the league. You can't just give up on those Texas players. Alabama's did really well under Saban in Texas. That needs to continue. This kid likes Alabama a lot. Wasn't so much having a lot of communication with the old staff. It's the new staff that's made a lot of progress with him, and he has set an official visit. One thing for fans to know about official visits, the rules have changed. The rule for almost all of our lifetime has been these kids can choose to go on 5 official visits, okay? That's now unlimited. There are no limits on visits. Kids can go on as many official visits as they choose to go on. The schools, however, those numbers haven't really been adjusted. Schools can't just offer an unlimited number of official visits. Off the top of my head, I want to say it's 60 or 65, maybe 60. I think it might be the right number. You can only bring in, each school can only pay for about 60 visits a year. That number didn't change, but the kids can now go on more than 5 visits. It's been our experience so far, though, Luke, that most kids are still sticking with around that 5 visit number. There's not an unlimited number of weekends in the year, right? So it's not like they can just each weekend go off to some different place. So most kids are going to end up with that 5, 6, maybe 7 visits at the most. But Haywood, who comes from a traditional powerhouse in Texas, one of Alabama's very top targets, he will not be an easy pull because everybody wants him.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be tough, but I mean, you got to get him on campus first, right? And
that's right.
Another thing that's going to make visits tough upcoming, I heard on a national show the other day that the Big Ten specifically is planning on having a lot more interesting games, like not necessarily Ohio State, Michigan, but some, somebody like Michigan State probably wouldn't be out of the realm of possibility on Fridays. Now, I'm not a huge fan of that because y'all know that I'm a high school football guy and I love to do AHSA stuff and I do some scoreboard stuff during the year usually. So, I mean, I feel like Fridays are for high school, Saturdays for college, and Sundays for pro. That's me. Now, I mean, that's, obviously there's some exceptions to the rule. You're going to have, I get it. The Mountain West is going to play a late night Friday game. Okay. Or the Big Ten is going to say, hey, you want to watch Purdue, Indiana. I don't, but I want to bet on it. So I'm going to be involved. And then, there'll be something on Thursday. I get all that, but I don't want to, I feel like all these other, football works so much better when we all kind of looked out for one another, not directly, but indirectly. Like pro didn't want to step on college's toes and college didn't want to step on high school's toes. And now it's sort of a free for all. I'll get to more on that in a little bit. I want to keep talking about this.
One additional point to make about that let's not tell the Big Ten this. I'm with you, by the way. I like the uniformity of Friday nights for high school football, Saturdays for college football, and Sundays for the NFL. I love that uniformity, but I'm fine with the Big Ten doing this because when Michigan plays Michigan State on Friday night, there won't be any prospects there because they're all playing their own games Friday night back home. So you can't invite your own prospects to your games, and it's going to advantage the SEC if the SEC is not playing Friday night games, which I don't suspect that they will, or at least not for now.
I mean, look, if they think they can make money on it, well, they'll play Friday at lunch. I mean, that's what we've learned, right? I mean,
the old joke is still true. When TV calls Alabama's president's mansion and says we'd like you to play Saturday at 3, they just say AM or PM. Let's do this, and that's still true.
Is that an old joke? I've never heard that before.
Oh, really? Yeah. That's an old one. I've been telling that one for months.
Not here. It's new to us. I like it. All right. The next visitor I want to talk about, and maybe my favorite name so far in this recruiting cycle, Lagonzo Hayward.
Hayward?
Lagonzo. I mean,
Lagonzo.
It's Spanish for the Gonzo. I don't know. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love it. I love Lagonzo Hayward. I mean, the ways that we could play off of this. And here's the thing. If your name is Lagonzo Hayward, you have to be a top 100 athlete. And that's what he is, because you can't be a top 100 offensive lineman. I mean, there's nothing you can do with the name Lagonzo if you're an offensive lineman. But if you're an athlete, and so that means you might be returning punch, you might be catching long passes or something, you might catch a bubble screen and go 58 yards for a touchdown. You can say, Lagonzo, he's Gonzo or something. I mean, I got to work on it. But y'all know where I'm going with this.
Wasn't Gonzo the little purple guy on the Muppet Show? The little purple guy?
He is. It's been so long since I thought about Sesame Street. You're right.
Gonzo. I wonder if
is he the Muppets or Sesame Street?
That's Muppets. Muppet Show is Gonzo.
Are they the same thing?
Well, Sesame Street has Muppets. Sesame Street has Muppets, but the Muppet Show had its own unique cast of Muppets that I don't think. In other words, you could be on Sesame Street.
Oh, it's Grover. Grover on Sesame Street.
He was the purple guy on, and there was a big, huge. Of course, yeah, but I also get them mixed up with McDonald's.
If you ever get a Snuffleupagus, see, he's got to be an offensive lineman, big and plotting, but super strong, quiet.
Well, now you got me fired up about Lagonzo for sure. By the way, who is, in addition to having the cool name, a national top 100 player, safety prospect from the state of Georgia. Another guy that won't be an easy pull, but he seems to have a great relationship with the new staff. This is a guy we've made a lot of progress with lately. So it's very realistic that we could be telling these Gonzo stories for the next 3 or 4 years.
Oh, man, I'd love to be doing that. That's fantastic. It's just so many possibilities. The next guy is let's not even talk about him. I want to talk about new names. But Travis Smith Jr. is one of the names that's on your list. And I should go back and say Lagonzo is supposed to visit Alabama the week of June 14th through the 16th. So, yes, these are a long way off. But, I mean, we know you guys like to talk recruiting. You prove it to us in the numbers where you're watching our programming. Travis Smith Jr., we're not going to spend a ton of time on him. He's already been to Alabama. I think Alabama's got a good shot here. 6'3", 6'3.5", 200-pound guy. It looks like wide receiver. It looks like he's going to be visiting Alabama later on in the year too. I'm looking for the exact date, but then I don't see it on here. He's going to be at Auburn this coming weekend, actually. And he's already been to Alabama. I know some. So, and then there's Taz Williams, another great name, Taz. He's from Texas, from Red Oak, Texas, and he will be expecting to make an announcement in July. And he's currently slated to be in Tuscaloosa on April 1. I don't know if I like people visiting on April Fool's Day, but we'll see.
He could be lying. He could be lying if that's the date he says he's coming.
But then, and he's also scheduled like an official weekend visit for June 14th through 16th. So we talk about Lagonzo will be there then too. Maybe that Taz and Lagonzo, if we get both those guys on the same day, I may flip out.
Taz and Lagonzo, that sounds like a great CBS detective series. One thing about Travis Smith, I think Travis is these are all high priority guys, and kudos to Andrew Bone at BOL for putting together this list, this information coming from Andrew Bone at BOL. Travis Smith is going to be tough. It's going to be tough to beat Georgia, I think, for him. I mean, he's a kid that we're going to have to Georgia's highly prioritized this kid. He's in state to Georgia. He'll be tough to beat. Taz, national elite recruit. But, the new staff is doing an excellent job with wide receivers for a couple of reasons. Number one, they're leaving a situation at Washington with a loaded wide receiver room that was nationally known. I mean, 3 players from the Washington Huskies team last year are going to go in day 1 or day 2 of this draft. Rome Odunze is probably going to be a top 6 pick in this upcoming NFL draft, a wide receiver from Washington. So the staff has a great reputation. Number 2, they throw it a ton. That gets wide receivers interested. And number 3, you could argue that Jamarcus Shepard, Alabama's new wide receiver coach, may be the best recruiter on the staff. That's going to be a fun topic that me and Luke will tackle all season long. Who's the best recruiter on this new Kalen DeBoer staff? It might be wide receiver coach Jamarcus Shepard. So if you combine the staff showing up with a reputation for putting wide receivers in the NFL, Rome Odunze being such a high-profile receiver in this upcoming draft, the fact that they threw it a ton at Washington, and number 4, maybe the best recruiter on the staff's the wide receiver coach, Alabama's going to do really well at the position. They already have, because they started 2024 flipping Ryan or getting Ryan Williams back on the commitment list, a wide receiver in the last class. So you should expect Alabama to do well at this position, no doubt.
Tell you something else you can expect me to talk about Amazon Fire Stick TV. That's right. Fire TV is your destination for sports, from live games to highlights to in-depth analysis. Fire TV is awesome. It offers amazing views, experiences with smart TVs, as well as the Fire Stick TV that you can plug into your existing TV that provides access to millions of movies and TV episodes, as well as free and live TV. Whether it's opening weekend for basketball or the college basketball tournament, you're going to want Fire TV. Fire TV recently created Fire TV channels to deliver a constant supply of the latest videos from your favorite sports brands, all for free, by the way. That includes all of us at Locked On and most of the big pro leagues and college conferences as well. Fire TV lets you dive into all the game analysis, highlights, and more to keep up to date on the latest in the world of sports, March Madness, NBA, MLB, and lots more. Not to mention great news, entertainment, gaming, travel, cooking, all that stuff. Check out Fire TV channels on Fire TV and Alexa devices. If you haven't checked out Fire TV channels, you should. Trust me on this. I'm a professional. Visit Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. That's Amazon.com/LockedOnFireTV. All right, so Jimmy, basketball tonight. We didn't go through all those visitors, but we do need to give the basketball team some love here. They played tonight against Florida. It's been pretty much chalk for the tournament. In fact, I don't think there has been an upset. Has there? Am I missing one?
Was Mississippi State over LSU an upset? I mean, I don't think Mississippi State.
No, or was Texas A&M over Ole Miss? I mean, A&M was favored.
I think A&M should have been favored to win. I mean, they're going to make the NCAA tournament, and Ole Miss is not. And Mississippi State's going to make the NCAA tournament now, and LSU is not. So, in my mind, there has not been an upset. And I mean, I've picked nothing but favorites, and I think it's 6 for 6 so far. Teams favored to win, and I suspect that will continue today as it relates to. I think Tennessee will beat Mississippi State, and I think Kentucky will beat Texas A&M. I think the 2 games that could go either way, and will be the 2 best games of the tournament so far, will be Auburn versus South Carolina this afternoon, Friday afternoon, and Alabama versus Florida tonight. I think those games could go either way, because those are pretty evenly matched ball teams.
All right, so I'm checking out the spreads on these. Alabama is -4 right now. Oh, goodness. I guess somebody's already calling me to check the spreads too.
Well, you started talking point spreads. There's your bookie on the phone.
He said, hold up. You don't know the spreads yet. That's my bad bookie intimidating voice. Wow. So Bama's a 4-point favorite. Okay, yeah. I can buy that. At the same time, I think I would have this at a pick 'em myself if I were doing it. So if I'm telling you who to really bet on, I think the value play is Florida. But of course, I'm pulling for Alabama, so I'm just not going to touch it. But I do feel like Alabama's got a good shot, and this is what we've been saying all along, Jimmy. I think the 2 worst things Alabama could do, The worst thing they can do is go all the way to Sunday and get blown out, and then probably end up having to play on early morning Thursday or Friday, just knowing our luck. And then get not doing away with a lot of potential rest and having to have a quick turnaround and not hoisting a trophy. That's what I'm worried about. I know everybody goes, well, if you in your scenario, you would have beaten Florida and Kentucky probably. True. But then if you get to the championship game and you lose to Auburn or Tennessee in an embarrassing fashion, that sort of wipes any goodwill away from that.
Yeah.
Or lose tonight. I don't want to lose tonight. I want to at least win tonight. If I lose to Kentucky, I can live with that. I can live losing to Kentucky in the SEC tournament. They own the SEC tournament. They haven't lately.
We've done it a million times.
Yeah, we've lost to them a bunch in this thing. It's not like we don't know how to do it.
It feels like Alabama's record against Kentucky in the SEC basketball tournament must be something serious. Must be something like, it feels like 4-35. I'm sure it's not, but it feels that way.
I'm going to have to look that up. If it is 4-35, you're going to be shocked.
Not really, but no, I think Alabama's look. This matchup against Florida is obviously tough for Alabama. They've played Florida twice. It was a difficult win at home. It took an overtime to beat Florida at home. And then you go on the road and they run us out of the O-Dome or whatever they call it. They played extremely well in the game in Gainesville. Now, here's the upside, Luke. It appears Rylan Griffin will likely play. Rylan is likely back. Latrell Wrightsell is now third game back and played really well in the last game. This will be Alabama's first game in a while with both Griffin and Wrightsell in the lineup. I think Alabama's four-guard lineup is extremely difficult for a lot of teams to defend when you have Sears, Estrada, Wrightsell, and Griffin all on the court at the same time, which Alabama likes to do at times. Very difficult to defend. So I'm curious as to what Alabama's going to look like now that they finally have all the pieces back at once. Now, Griffin might be a little rusty for having missed a game and missed a lot of practice time. Wrightsell still working his way back from his concussion issue. But I like that Alabama's got all hands on deck here. And I like Alabama to beat Florida tonight, but I'm expecting it to be a 40-minute tough game because Florida is a very good team and they're playing well. I know they just lost at Vanderbilt, but that was one of those games where everything was already determined. It wasn't even affecting seeding. It wasn't affecting them in the NCAA tournament. That was just almost like one of those minor bowl games at the end of a football season. I mean, it was the last road trip of the year. I'm sure the kids just had fun on their Nashville trip.
Well, they're back in Nashville, and they did beat Georgia. So, I mean, but it was a sort of it was a weird, sloppy 85-80 game. I mean, I don't think either team shot particularly well. Either team played particularly well. I think Georgia had a 3-point lead at the half. Boy, that could have helped Alabama out, right? If Georgia had been able to pull that off. But as it is, Florida will come in with their 9 7-footers, and we will have to deal with those guys. When we come back,
they're the leading rebounding team in the league, right? Doesn't that sound right?
I think that's correct.
That makes it a difficult matchup for Alabama. As we know, that's been Alabama's Achilles heel all season, is playing teams that are big and playing teams that are good around the basket. Florida, not particularly awesome scoring around the basket, but they're very good rebounding the ball. And it's just not a great matchup for Alabama. That's why the two matchups went like they did. But again, Alabama's got the full lineup back, and I like Alabama to find a way to win. I might not be quite as optimistic about Kentucky on Saturday.
Yeah, no doubt. All right, when we come back, Jimmy's going to go on a rant about a former Bama basketball player, and I'm going to go on a rant about this new college football playoff thing. We're each going to get about 3 minutes, so just stick around and listen to old people complain. If you're into that sort of thing, you call your parents every week like I do. Okay. I do want to tell you about LinkedIn, though, man. LinkedIn. Thank you, LinkedIn. We love you, LinkedIn. When you're hiring for your small business, you want to find quality professionals that are right for the role. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs has tools to help you find the right professionals for your team faster and for free. LinkedIn isn't just another job board. What are you, crazy? LinkedIn has a vast network of more than 1 billion professionals that makes it the best place to hire. It gives you access to professionals you can't find anywhere else on the planet. LinkedIn does all this while making the process easy and intuitive. LinkedIn knows that small businesses are wearing so many hats, they may not have the time or the resources to hire. LinkedIn is constantly finding ways to make the process even easier than it was just today. Every day, they're making it easier for you. 2.5 million small businesses are using LinkedIn right now for hiring. So post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege to post your job for free. Terms and conditions, yep, they'll be there. Jimmy, did you die? Right at the end of my live read. Was that you?
Oh, really? I'm still kicking. I'm still here.
Sounded like somebody coughed up a kidney.
Oh, no.
Was that Kelly?
No.
Or was it somebody else? Or did I just expose it?
It's a live studio audience. It's a live studio audience here, as always, with the
all right, Jimmy.
The Gonzo, the Gonzo and Trav, Gonzo and Taz.
Lagonzo and Taz. You know, Limu, Emu, and Lagonzo. I could see that catching on.
That's the worst.
Okay.
I was going to do a rant on Javon Quinterly. I now may do a rant on the Limu Emu commercial, because limo does not rhyme with emu, no matter how hard they try. Limo does not rhyme.
But it's pronounced Limu.
But isn't it a limo? It's
a
limo.
There's a U at the end of it. It's Limu.
It's a limousine that they're trying to sell us on. I think they're trying to sell us on the term limo, like limousine and emu.
Are you watching the right commercial?
Probably not. I don't watch a lot of commercials, but I do know that I turn it off every time that comes on, because an emu is not going to drive my limo.
But the Limu is an emu. That's his name. Limu Emu. He's an emu that's named Limu, and then the other guy's named Doug. And they don't ride in a limousine. They're riding some beat up hoopty that looks like Starsky and Hutch decided, nah, we can't ride in that piece of crap.
I guess that's probably where I get the limousine from. That's that stretch big car. That's probably where I'm getting that from.
Honest to God, I feel like you remind me of that scene in The Simpsons when they were trying to brainwash Homer Simpson, like this cult was, and they put him in and they make him watch this movie that supposedly brainwashes you. And in the middle of the whole thing, everybody else is brainwashed. And he goes, so wait a minute. I'm confused. The cops knew DEA was setting him up, and he goes, there's not any of that in the movie. He goes, I know. When I get bored, I make up my own movie. That's what it sounds like you do with commercials. When you get bored, you just make your own commercial. But okay, so I'm going to tell you about a great commercial here in a second. But for right now, tell us, go on a rant about Quinterly for a minute, Jimmy. You have the floor.
Yeah. I'm not so much a rant about, I never would have believed when Javon Quinterly left the basketball team last year. I never would have. I thought it was going to be debilitating. I thought that was going to be a huge blow. I'm pretty high. Quinterly's a good player, an award-winning player, SEC tournament MVP, really good player in March. Javon Quinterly did a lot for Alabama. When he left, I really thought it would be a terrible blow. Ends up, we were wrong, and I'll get to that in a second. Mark Sears and Aaron Estrada ended up being one of the most productive backcourts in the history of Alabama basketball. I saw a stat recently that ESPN put up about their number of points, their number of rebounds, their number of assists together as a backcourt is one of the most productive in the last 20 years in NCAA basketball. In the last 20 years, Sears and Estrada's production matches up against most any backcourt in college basketball over 20 years. I haven't missed Quinterly at all. That's not even counting Latrell Wrightsell, who's probably Alabama's most efficient player out on the perimeter. It's not counting Rylan Griffin, who's Alabama's best perimeter defender and is also a pretty good shooter. So Alabama didn't miss Javon. And now Javon goes to Memphis, and Memphis lost in the tournament, in their own American Athletic Conference tournament to Wichita, I believe, yesterday. And Javon didn't have a good game. And Memphis is out, and they're probably not making the NCAA tournament. So Javon's career is over after his 7th, 8th, 9th year, or however long it took for him to finish up. And as everybody knows, my opinion about Alabama players that portal out, Alabama players that have a hard time getting on the court or getting on the field, and they transfer out because they're looking for playing time. I root for those guys like they're still Alabama guys. I want them to do well. They're always Alabama players to me, even if they're playing in someone else's uniform. But I do not feel that way about starters at Alabama who leave for somewhere else. because it's about another reason. It's not about playing time. It's about something else. And I have a hard time pulling for those guys. And I'm not using this as some sort of, joy that Quinterly's season ended poorly and he didn't play well in the last game they're out. I don't mean that at all. I just mean that I noticed that Quinterly's season is over and his career is over. And I noticed that I had a lot of angst about Quinterly leaving, but it ends up we replaced his production just fine, did just fine without him. And Alabama's still playing and Memphis is not.
Yeah. And you know what's funny is like Quinterly even took his rivalry with like Auburn Twitter to Memphis. I mean, I remember when Memphis was ranked like in the top 10 and Auburn wasn't ranked at all at the beginning of the year and rightfully so, because Auburn had played a really terrible non-conference schedule and Memphis played some people and they were looking pretty good and everybody was super high on them. And he said something like, look who's ranked and look who isn't or something. And it just drew the ire of Auburn fans. And it came back to bite him right in the backside because Auburn turned out to be pretty doggone good and Memphis just isn't good. They're just not good. And so, yeah, he's a guy who self-inflicts a lot of grief from other people. He doesn't, he's not hard on himself, it doesn't seem like, but he makes it where he can be rather unlikable at times. I mean, I guess you love him when he's on your team. And, man, he did some good things for Alabama. He did, and I appreciate – I'm not mad at Javon Quinterly. I do think it sounds like he went for his bag. That's what it sounds like. And in this day and age, that's what some people are going to do. And you can hate on them if you want to, and you can tell them, hey, that I think the truth of the matter is that they're being – short-sighted more often than not. That I think if Javon had, maybe it was a mutual parting of the ways. I've never really gotten the full story on that. But regardless, I think you're right. I think Alabama came out better. And I think it's hard to dispute it. So I'll tell you what, though, given the way that, like, look, if we had known Latrell Wrights was going to be hurt and Rylan Griffin was going to be banged up, I know they don't play the same position necessarily. But, boy, I would have loved to have had Javon Quinterly just to get some extra minutes and maybe even go even more up-tempo a little bit at times or something. Just do something. We missed some depth. The real person I wanted back was Charles Bediako. I'm going to go on a quick rant really quickly about this 14-team playoff. We told you. They won't stop. They won't stop expanding. It's never going to stop. And for those who say, oh, what's the big deal? More football. Or I like the NFL. I keep hearing people say that. I like the NFL. I like the NFL too. I love the NFL. But the NFL is different from college. It's different from high school. It's not, and not just in that these are gargantuan human beings playing it that are well-trained. It's that the foundation of the sport is different. And the foundation of college football has always been about Saturday, and it's always been about the regular season meaning more. The college football rivalries mean more than any other sports rivalry. You get out of here with baseball and Boston and the Yankees. Nobody cares. It doesn't matter. They play 12 times a year or something. I mean, that's not a big deal. Alabama and Auburn played once. They should play once because that's all we can handle as a collective group of human beings, all with hearts, that we can't handle any more than that, and blood pressure issues because we eat a lot of fatty foods here in the South. But we don't need any. We need Michigan and Ohio State once a year. That's just what we need. Now, if they screw up and play in the playoffs, okay, we can probably live with it because we've dealt with it. But it technically it goes into the next year, so we can sort of get by with it, right? We are cheapening this game by the minute. We didn't even get to see what a 12-team playoff looks like before we went to 14 teams. And again, for those people, I say the same thing about college basketball. We've screwed this up with 68 teams. Might as well be 86 teams with 68 teams. I like the tournament. It doesn't mean I don't like the tournament. I like a lot of things that aren't right, that aren't good for me necessarily. But having 68 teams in this tournament is stupid. Having your automatic qualifier be the team that gets hot at the end and wins your conference tournament is stupid. And what some other teams have finally begun to catch on about, Kansas said, we're in the NCAA tournament no matter what. We're probably going to be somewhere between a 2 and a 4 seed no matter what. So why don't we just send our 2 best players in this tournament? That means nothing to us because we don't really have any motivation to kick butt in this tournament. So what it does is it leads Cincinnati gets to play a depleted Kansas team. And so Cincinnati, I mean, they could theoretically go on a run. I don't know, they may already be out by now, but they could theoretically go on a run, win their tournament, and steal the spot from a team that does deserve to be there. And if you don't see that that's wrong, I don't know what else to tell you. That's wrong. It's wrong that they get to steal a spot from even an Indiana State. And frankly, I don't want Indiana State in there either. I think they've proven they don't deserve to be there. So my point is this, that we keep putting all this emphasis on all these playoffs, and we got to maximize the playoffs and devalue the regular season, when the regular season is what made college football so beautiful, so awesome. Every Saturday was awesome. Every Saturday meant something. And now you know what Saturday's going to be? We lost, but, we'll still get in the playoffs because there's 14 of us available. And then there'll be 16, and then there'll be 24, and it's never going to stop. And they just won't stop until they ruin my life. That's I'm convinced this is all a conspiracy against me. And finally, I'm going to say this out there, that Jimmy didn't watch a lot of commercials, but I do. The progressive commercials where they talk about turning in that counselor is trying to stop you from turning into your parents is the best advertising campaign I can just about ever remember. It's my favorite one in years. The one where the guy has the instruction, the crown molding. The guy goes, I keep all this crown molding because you never know when I'm going to need it. He goes, I do. And it's never. And because I have some of that crown molding. And even if we needed the crown molding, I wouldn't know how to put it on. So what the hell do I have it for? It's better for me just to burn my house down and start over because of the crown molding than to keep that crappy crown molding in my house. That's my thought. So that's going to do it for today's podcast. Roll Tide, everybody.
Is there an emu in those progressive commercials too?
There should be. That would be awesome if they just 2 insurance commercials.
I like this. I do like this. Those commercials are good.
There was one confusing thing. Cadbury is doing a Cadbury egg commercial with the Reese's egg commercial. Does Reese's own Cadbury or vice versa? Because I was like, that's weird. They're like bunching up to sell chocolate. And I don't like that. I don't want all these big conglomerate commercials. I don't want Ford and Chevy to get together and do a commercial.
They're all owned by Wonka.
But knowing our luck, they're probably owned by some big Auburn booster, and we're all screwed. But anyway, all right. So Roll Tide, everybody. We'll talk Sunday. Oh, we might talk tomorrow, Jimmy. If we beat Florida, we might talk. Yeah. Roll Tide.
Yeah. We'll probably do a Saturday show, I think. Roll Tide.
Okay, Roll Tide.